Alright, what's up you guys? Welcome to another action figure review, as today we're going to be taking a look at my Dinosaurs collection from Bandai, which was released in the year 2000. Now this episode I'm really excited to talk about because as a huge Transformers Beast Wars fan, Dinosaurs basically holds in that same realm as these dinosaurs basically transform into robots. Now if you're not familiar what Dinosaurs is, it was basically like an anime show where you had these dinosaurs that basically were in a museum. Evil villains called Dragosaurs were basically from space that came down to Earth to kind of steal its life source. So then these dinosaurs that were in the museum so these specific dinosaurs were selected to turn into robots to not only transform but also to defend Earth. And alongside them were also aided by a couple of human kids. So as strange as that part is, I just loved the concept of having dinosaurs becoming robots because that's just freaking badass. Yes, I'm really excited to talk about this because you can just see from the group shot right here that all of these look absolutely beautiful. They're so vibrant, they're so colorful, the aesthetics are just filled with so much chrome, and it's just beyond vibrant and vivid. And I don't know how else to explain it, but it's just one of the most beautiful highlights in my collection. So let's go ahead and look at these dinosaur figures, also known as the Dino Knights, which is their name as a group. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Dino Knights and just see how great these really are. And also, that's a villain, so we'll get to that in a bit. So let's go ahead and take a look at these figures and see how great they really are. Alright, and up first we're going to be taking a look at Dino Tyrano, and he is basically the T-Rex and the leader of the Dino Knights. And this figure is just absolutely gorgeous. It is beautiful. Now, when I say that these plastics is very brittle and frail and fragile, or whatever the hell you want to call it, I'm definitely not kidding, because the cool part is, as a kid, you would love the aesthetics of these figures, but they would break so damn easily. So I just love his facial expression. It just looks like the leader that you can really just know as, and the chrome and just the overall shiny plastic that they used for the T-Rex is just beyond beautiful. Now, I'm not going to be transforming these figures just because I want to be very cautious of the plastic, but his tail looks really nice. And the really cool thing about these figures is they all come with translucent plastic, so you can see like the inner sculpting of other body parts within certain armor pieces, and it just, it works really well. And he does come with his signature sword, which is his weapon. It's not too bad, so it's like a flame sword, but the overall design of him is just so underrated. It is just so beautiful, and oh my god, I can't stop gushing all about it. He just looks amazing. You can just see like the T-Rex tail and how the bone structures of all that from the back, and his little T-Rex arms and stuff. So yeah, a lot of these figures can also be very, very loose, and they're not like the most stiff joints, but again, I cannot complain about it just because I just love how shiny and metallic, and the chrome all came out very well. Some figures may have some defects in terms of the chrome kind of scraping off, but again, you cannot go wrong with just how beautiful these figures are, because they are also quite expensive in the aftermarket, but nonetheless, it is just a beautiful, beautiful looking figure. And I love how his color scheme is more on the silvers and red tones, because again, it just makes it look like that menacing or truthful and righteousness of a leader. So that is Dino Tyrano, and I believe the code name would also be like DZ1. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But yeah, overall a great looking figure, and he would definitely be a great asset to the Beast Wars characters like Optimus Primal. Now up next we have Dino Brachio, who is the second in command of the Dino Knights, who's also considered the oldest and wisest of the group. Now this figure is a little bit top heavy, and the joints are a bit loose, but overall this is another beautiful looking figure. His weapon is the axe right there. And I love how this figure basically resembles the Rhinox from Beast Wars, as he is the Rhinox to Optimus. So he is the, the second in command to Dino Tyrano. But I love the blues and the golds on this figure. It is just, oh my god, it is beautiful. It is fantastic. And I love how, Dino Tyrano was red and silver. This one is blue and gold. So look at that translucent plastic of the blues. Whoever designed the color scheme of this figure just did a really great job. On the back, you can see the additional leg pieces, the tail, and then you can see his Brachio head sculpt, which also looks very nice. And this is a great placeholder to kind of have the figure stand properly, because again, he is very top heavy, and because my joints are pretty loose, the knees are very weak. In order to not have him tip over and fall, you gotta make sure he stands properly. But overall, look at the shine, look at the glimmer, the shimmer, all that is beautiful. I love his helmet design, the face sculpt, all that came out very, very well. I love how they incorporate like the bone structures within these figures to give it more like a menacing feel to it. But it looks like he has like a giant ass shield around his shoulders, which looks really nice. And overall, just the concept of this figure is just really, really, really cool. Just love the feet and all that. And again, the back of the figure, you can just see how the dinosaur aesthetic of it just kind of fits in there really well. And he's a bit bigger to hold, but overall, just, yeah, I absolutely love it. And I believe in the toy aesthetic, he's also called DZ2 or D2. So yeah, second in command, really cool looking figures. So that is Dino Brachio, part of the Dino Knights. Up next we have Dino Mammoth, and he is another beast of a figure and probably one of my favorites, and he's the last one that I acquired in my collection because he's probably one of the more rarer ones within the Dino Knights. And this one is another beautiful looking figure because not only is he a mammoth, but just the fact that this guy is more on the purple chrome, and then the body itself is the translucent yellow. So the colors really do complement each other and contrast very, very well. So this is just absolutely beautiful. You can see all the actual, again, the bones of it that actually go into the body, and then the mammoth head with the tusks and all that stuff. So really cool. His weapon is like this staff. So he's kind of like more of the sane character within the group, but the facial expression looks very, very nice. I love how it looks like it has like a red visor to it with the double tusks there as well, which is really nice. And again, the yellows and all that came out very well. I love the back of the figure. Just shows how much aesthetics and details go into all these figures. And then like the transforming aspect wasn't too hard for this guy, but again, I just love having these figures, and it just showcases like how much of a big beast he is. He could also be very top heavy because his chest kind of just rolls right over, and position him a little more carefully, but overall the concept of this figure is just so damn beautiful, and I just absolutely love it. I think he's probably one of my favorites within my Dino Knights because he's just, again, a really good looking figure and just kind of shines very well. So not too much to say about it other than I just really like it. And I don't think I mentioned the green eyes on the actual mammoth head, and then the tusks looks really nice with good sculpting there. Very, very job well done. And look at that extra detail right there on the sculpting, right there on the legs and the thighs. The overall, just everything about it looks so amazing. I forgot to mention in his code numbering, he is also DZ7, so the 7th member of the Dino Knights group. So that is Dino Mammoth. Up next, we're going to be taking a look at Dino Tricera, and he is the Triceratops of the group of the Dino Knights, and this is another fantastic looking figure. And the reason why I say this is because this guy utilizes the concept of blues and greens, and not only is his signature weapon the cool horns of the Triceratops as kind of like these blades, but you can see the Triceratops head as the chest, where the top of the head is the shield for his face, which you can see kind of on the side. A little bit difficult to see, but that is fantastic designing. It is overall on the more of the medium scale size of the figures, but just the concept of him is really, really awesome. And I love how it's very stiff joints. The translucent greens really does contrast against the like darker blues, which I really, really do like. And again, you can just see all the structuring of the bones inside the translucence right there. The spikes on the back of the spine right there, which just looks really, really nice. And again, the highlight here is really just how they incorporated these intricate, dinosaur bodies into the actual robotic forms. And you got to give it to these guys who created it, because it is just amazing to look at. And I just love how the chrome itself has like that bluish purple hues to it with the red eyes, and it looks great. Now when you convert them into the actual dinosaur, the horns do place into the pegs right there, so that's awesome. And you can see from the side profile that his head sculpt does have also horns there too, to kind of give it like that Triceratops feel. So I believe the triple Triceratops horns gives it like a superpower to him. So it's a really interesting and badass looking figure. And I believe his code reference number is DZ6, so that's the sixth member of the group. But since I'm going out of order, that's really okay, because I'm really focusing on size first. So that is Dino Tricera, part of the Dino Knights. Up next we have Dino Stego, who's basically the Stegosaurus, and it's basically combining two of my favorite colors, green and purple. And the really cool thing about it is he's basically considered the tough guy of the group. And what better way to showcase that he is a tough guy is the fact that he has an eye patch. Now, one of the big things you will notice on this figure is that the chrome is actually peeled off, which is really, really unfortunate. I kind of wished that the green still stayed on there, but I guess it just really did fade off, which is extremely unfortunate for me. And hopefully one day I can find a better, more crispier quality version of this guy. But again, I just still love this figure. The face sculpt looks like he's a tough guy, and I'm pretty sure he has an eye patch because of the battles that he's been in. And just, you don't want to mess with this guy. He's just probably the temper-headed of the group. And overall, the greens, all that sculpting looks really good, more on the shorter side of the characters. But again, the way the build is of this figure, it's very nice to hold in your hand. It's like they've really crafted so much emphasis on just how each figure holds differently, and you feel like the toughness of this figure like in your hand, and because he has like the fists and all that stuff, which is nicely sculpted too. So it's more like chrome metallic finish on these figures, which I really do like. And yeah, and you can see on the inside the purples, the translucent purples with the green bones there, which does complement the color scheme very well. On the side profile, you can see these Stegosaurus fins, or like whatever you want to call it, the tail as well with the spikes, and then the head sculpt right there, which is very nice, and it does have nice eyes. I think like the design of it is slightly weaker because he doesn't stand out as much as the other figures in terms of like the chrome departments, but overall it still adds like a nice addition to the group, because again, like the translucent purples really does complement the metallic greens that they used. And he doesn't necessarily shine as much as the other figures, but I guess it's really the emphasis of the main torso piece right here, these 6 Stegosaurus spikes that kind of give it like the the glitter and gloss of the actual figure. So everything else is pretty cool. He is a little bit back heavy because you can just see how they designed it, where everything just kind of sticks out from the back, but cautiousness in order, you want to break it. Hopefully collectors can be careful, but it has like a very interesting arch to it, which it looks cool, but when you're holding it in your hand, it's kind of a bit odd. But overall, everything else just looks freaking great. So yeah, overall head sculpt, everything is really cool, and I love how the side earpieces are very symmetrical and looks the same as his little spikes that you have here on the back and on the tail as well. So yeah, again, 2 of my favorite colors, purple and green, into one character who's basically a badass. Is just, you cannot go wrong with him. So really, really a good looking figure. So he is also considered the coding of DZ3 of the rankings. So he is the 3rd figure in the roster of the Dino Knights. But other than that, that is Dino Stego from the Dino Knights. Up next, we're going to be taking a look at Dino Terra, who's the pterodactyl of the Dino Knights, and basically I believe one of the only females of the group. And this is a pretty interesting character, as it is more on the smaller scale, but I love how it has the olive-ish type muted green with the translucent oranges, which looks really, really cool. And it's very minimal in articulation, more on the basic series of like the 5-inch scale figures, but it's very hollow, and this is the only version of this figure, and it's still not that bad. Interesting choices in the design department in terms of the head sculpt, but with these pterodactyl ears, I suppose. But the head sculpt, the facial expression looks very good. The chrome is intact, which I do like, and everything else is really good. You can see like the oranges kind of seeping out through the greens, which again comes out very well. And yeah, again, the contrasting of these colors is really the highlights of these dino figures, because they work very well together. And not too much else to say other than I believe the coding for this figure is the DZ5, so the 5th member of the Dino Knights group. And yeah, overall it's a good looking figure. I mean, even though it is on the smaller scale, I really, really do like it, and just adds a lot more versatility to it. I mean, you can see the sculpting on the wings, giving it so much texturing. Like, what company would actually do that kind of effort for these kinds of figures? And you can just see the tail and then the spikes, and yeah, everything just looks really, really good. So there is a questionable thing, is that when you look at the crotch piece of this figure, you turn it around and yeah, you see that. So very interesting to say the least, but bizarre choices of why they would go that route, but I guess it is what it is. So anyways, so that is Dino Terra, part of the Dino Knights, who's the female pterodactyl of the group. Up next we have Dino Saber, who's the youngest member of the Dino Knights, and it is a saber-toothed tiger, and it is more of the smallest figure within the Dino Knights as well. So I kept him in a crunched up pose because it's just looks badass that way. So this guy is in the color scheme of the reds and yellows, with the translucent yellows, and then the red plastic more on the basic series. But again, it does contain some chromes here and there on the face sculpt, which looks really nice. And the overall aesthetic of it is really cool. He does come with like a whip that's attached to his tail, which you kind of pull out of his ass, which is pretty funny. But other than that, the concept of this figure is very basic and minimal, with slight articulation, but again, it's very good because the joints here are nice and tight, and gives you more versatility for it, because it's like you can really just bounce them, or like roll them around, and gives you a great amount of action poses. And the head sculpt itself is more on the basic side, but again, the facial expression does give it like that younger kid vibe of the Dino Knights, and again, can't really go wrong with it. So everything else looks pretty good, and again, a really cool looking figure, but not too much else to say. So that is Dino Saber, who is considered DZ4 within the coding, which is basically the 4th member of the group. So that is Dino Saber. Now, as a bonus, we have Dino Patchy. Now, this figure is basically considered an attachment piece to Dino Tyrano, because there's a box set where it contains 2 or 3 smaller scale figures that attach onto Dino Tyrano to give him like an ultimate version. So this is, I believe, 1 out of 2, where the other one is Dino Arch, which I do not have, unfortunately. So this guy is again more on the smaller scale, but you can see the dinosaur head, which looks really nice, and I love the color scheme of this one because it's like that tealish gray with the color tones of the light orange, which really does work well. I mean, here you can literally see how his head sculpt looks really good. He has like that hard head, very similar to the dinosaur version as well. Now, I don't really remember how to pronounce the actual name of this dinosaur, and it does look weird with his head popping out from the back there, but the overall concept of it is really cool, because Dino Arch is like I believe a snapping turtle or something like that, and he really looks, it's like a purplish gold figure to kind of complement this figure that attaches to Dino Tyrano, which I don't have. But overall, the idea of these smaller scale figures to fit onto the bigger ones is just genius marketing and genius designing. Unfortunately, he does not have any elbow articulation. It's just a straight up mold, but I guess it's okay. I mean, it is what it is for more of the smaller scales, but he does have knee articulation, which is really good. And the overall concept of it just, screams out. Like, you can't have too many of these because, again, they're all really fantastic. And hopefully I can get Dino Arch at some point and all the other remaining ones, however much they made. But the fact that I have this one is really cool. Again, you can see there's translucent coloring within the actual tail. So, yeah, bravo to them. That looks really good. But, yeah, I love the whole shiny shimmer to the actual dinosaur head with the red eyes and stuff, looking pretty badass. So that is Dino Patchy, who's basically considered like a weapon accessory to Dino Tyrano. Alright, now as a bonus, they basically have the villains of the group, which is the Dragosaurs, and these guys are basically the inverted colors of the Dino Knights. Now this particular figure is the Shadow Mammoth. Now it's also considered as the original version, but I know the real one is more of the purple and yellow. And then there is the Drago Elephas one, which is the elephant, which is kind of like in the reddish colors. So I'm not too sure which one is the actual main villain of this particular figure. But overall, the fact that every single Dino Knight has their own counterpart to it. So here we see Drago Tigra, which is basically Dino Saber's counterpart, which is more in the darker blues and then the grays. But let's take a quick look at the comparisons of both, and then you'll see exactly what it is I'm talking about. Alright, so as I mentioned here, we have the Dino Mammoth, and then we have another Dino Mammoth, but I guess it's kind of considered the Shadow Mammoth, or because the Drago Elephas is more in the reddish tones, but we have Drago Tigra and then Dino Saber. So again, every Dino Knight has their own counterpart, so which is inverted in darker colors to kind of, go against their strengths and weaknesses. So these are the only two that I have within this group, and hopefully I can get the others, but again, they're just so damn hard to find and they're so rare. So these are the only two that were just there, and I'm just happy to have them. But will I get the rest? I'm not too sure, because again, they're just so much harder to find. But overall, it's just really cool that in this show you can have different versions and different colors of your favorite characters, and just kind of mix and match between however it is you want to put into your collection. So that is basically the darker versions of the Drago variants, which you have Drago or Dino Mammoth, and then or Elephas or whatever, and then we have Drago Tigra. Alright, and last but not least, we have Gigano Dragon, which is basically the Chinese dragon and villain of the Dinosaurs show. And this figure is just freaking amazing looking. Now, you'll notice that there's a lot of cuts and lines between the torsos and the legs. And that's because you can actually split open this whole entire figure apart, and it stretches out as a Chinese dragon, which is freaking absolutely genius invention. So I don't know, again, these transforming robots is just freaking great. But you can see the chrome dragon head sculpt, which looks really cool. I mean, that is a menacing looking figure. I always used to use this for my Power Rangers as well, but I just love how the metallic and just the overall shimmer to it is just so damn nice. And then you kind of can just move this up this way, and then you can have his fist come out, which I forgot to do. So but there's like a gap in between, which is kind of sucks, but overall it's okay. The head sculpt looks very menacing, very evil like, so I think they did a really great job capturing this guy as the villain of the series, because again, just the red eyes and then that face sculpt makes it look like, he means business and he wants to take over the world or Earth or whatever. So looks really cool. I just love how there's these metallic or emerald greens with the little purples, which really does contrast with the silvers, all looking really, really nice. And I love how, one hand is the actual tail, which I've just discussed with the fist, and then the right hand is the dragon head, which again is very job well done on their part. So again, you can see a lot of the line work right there, which kind of splits open the whole figure in half to kind of spread him out into the actual dragon form. And the back itself, again, looking really good. So yeah, can't say too much about it other than it's a good looking figure. I mean, a lot of times when you're playing with it or you're moving with its articulation, the pieces just pop out, and it's just, it gets really irritating at times. But if you're very careful, you can kind of get away with it. So that is Gigano Dragon, which is the villain from the Dinosaurs show. So the thing is, even about this figure, is that there's all these other Dragosaurs that were part of this, the villains group, which are, the inverted colors of the main Dino Knights. But will I get those? I'm not sure. And then will I get the other villains as well? That's to be determined, because they're so rare and hard to find. But hopefully at some point I can actually find them, because if not, I will be feeling a little incomplete. But again, it's really okay for what it is. But it's still, I'm at least happy to have at least one of the villains within the Dinosaurs TV show lineup. Alright, you guys, so that was my Dino Knights and Dragosaurs collection, also part of the Dinosaurs TV show. And again, I'm very excited to talk about these figures, because I feel like they're more of a rare hidden gem, and not many people know about this. But I remember being a kid and watching the show on Fox Kids, and it was probably just a really nice, fun show. So thank you guys all for watching. Be sure to give a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next episode.